Hello, everybody. It is a nice opportunity to present the BJS lecture. My name is Alaa El-Hussuna. I'm a surgeon and researcher. I'm the leader of the Open Source Research Organization that you will hear about in this presentation also. I'm based in Denmark, and I've been chairing the European Society of Coloproctology's cohort study committee, which is the research arm. And I've been also chairing the European Crohn colitis organization in this year. Roadmap to innovation in surgery. What we are going to talk about today is the history of innovation in surgery, then what is the foundation of innovation, which I believe is surgical research, how the multidisciplinary scientific approach stimulate innovation, and how can we use the feedback to improve surgical innovations. Then all this should be in a frame, and this frame is the leadership, which will guarantee organization of innovation in surgery and will improve the cost effectiveness of innovation, which is a difficult task, but let us start. This talk is based on a series of talks presented in the AIS channel. It is an online educational platform free of charge, and you can access all those talks. There are 12 talks about innovation in surgery, starting from the history and ending in the storytelling and how can we improve the innovation. The history of surgery is not only a story of surgeons and surgical techniques. It involves the work of physicians, anatomists, scientists, even engineers. Discoveries in the other fields have paved the way to new milestones in surgery, and surgeons played a critical role in applying the cumulative knowledge. Surgeons advanced the field of surgery by teaming up with specialists from other fields to create new surgical techniques and devices. This is what the history of surgery tells us. And I think that's why we need academic surgeons, or you can call them surgeon scientists. Those surgeons are pivotal in advancing the field of surgery because they will bridge the gap between practice and research. And if we have those academic surgeons or scientists, then we can have more focus on theory. This is one of the weak points in surgical research. We need more focus on the theoretical aspect. This is what the astrophysicists do. They can calculate the planet positions even before seeing them with a telescope. The periodic table is another example of how discoveries has been made even before real discovery of those elements. The atom energy is another example which is known for everybody. The theory took many years, many decades to develop, but when the theory was there, then the practice was just a matter of few years to develop this based on the theory. That's what we need in surgery also. However, obviously surgeons focus on handwork. That's why we went to surgery. That's why we became surgeons. But this might prevent breakthroughs. This is an example. Alexis Carrel thought that the transplantation rejection is because we have a problem with anastomosis of blood vessels. So he dedicated a lot of time working on improving the anastomosis of blood vessels. Actually, he got the Nobel Prize for this work, but now we know that it is not the anastomosis of blood vessels, it is the immune system, and has been discovered by somebody else, and then it has been incorporated in surgical practice. Example is vagotomy, an operation developed to treat peptic ulcer, and then after discovering the high complication rate has been developed to selective vagotomy, and then to highly selective vagotomy and highly selective vagotomy, and there was a huge literature about this, surgical literature. But then we discovered that it is about bacteria, and proton pump inhibitors can help in treatment of about 90% or more than 90% of those cases. So you see, when we focus more on theory, maybe we can discover something else in surgical diseases, and maybe you can develop new procedures. Here is a case in point, the breast surgery. You know, when the breast surgery developed the radical, or what they call it, Halsted mastectomy for about 120 years ago, it was a huge operation, removing a lot of tissue, and the woman is left actually handicapped after this operation. With research, we developed that we don't need to do this. We need just to have a lumpectomy, and maybe we follow up with adjuvant therapy. How could we have done this without research? So I hope you agree with me that research is foundation for surgical innovation. So it is one of the lessons learned that we need research, and we need the evidence-based guidelines, and we need the quality control. All this can be done only if we have some surgeons who also work on research. What we call them academic surgeons, or what we call them the surgeon scientists. And those surgeons cannot do it without organizing the surgical care, because there is a lot of focus, much focus on production and how many patients we see, how many operations we have done, and we cannot do this without changing the organization to allowing this part of the team to survive. Is it for everybody? Definitely no. Not every surgeon must be a researcher, but every surgeon must implement evidence-based approach. So that's why we need the academic surgeons to take care of this part of the research, and we need to change the organization of the surgical care and to allow those scientists to work in multidisciplinary teams to improve innovation in surgery. It might be difficult to hear or to digest when I say it for many surgeons, but is there any leading private company without a research and development team, without research and development budget? So why not surgical department have such a budget and such a team? If we have those surgeon scientists, then we can do great research, and we can do good innovation in surgery. But to do surgical research, we need objective data. One piece of objective data is better than 1,000 pieces of subjective data. So data that it is collected objectively, such as blood investigation, for example, they are valuable data. And if we have diverse data, for example, different hospitals, different operations, and if we have big data generated with high volume and velocity, and they are also diverse, if we have those three pillars, then we can do good research. With good research, we can do innovation. With innovation, we can advance surgical care. Advancing surgical care is not only important for our patients, but it is also important for surgery to survive as a science and to continue to innovate. Innovate means adding new procedures to tackle diseases. Now, what is the role of multi-scientific approach? Let us first define multi-scientific approach. It is when there are professionals from various disciplines, and they have diverse skill sets and knowledge bases. They work together towards a common goal. Each member contribute with their unique expertise and perspectives. This way, they can address complex challenges. Why we need it? Well, it can give a holistic solution for the problem, because people will see the problem from different angles. It can give patients tailored treatment, and this will lead to improved patient outcomes. This has been shown in research, because even research papers, if you have diverse team, so you have better impact, scientific impact in sport and business. It has been said that people from different backgrounds approach problems from different angles, and this cognitive diversity, that's to say people thinking in different ways, That's why by assembling a team of people from different perspectives and intellectual backgrounds, if we have this complex cognitive diversity, we can improve innovation and we can make a great difference in productivity. This is what has been proved in science and also in business. But science and innovation is a process. It starts by defining a question, then gathering information, making hypotheses, testing it, collecting data, analyzing data, interpret data, and then publish the results, and the circle will go on. Feedback is very important in defining the question, the beginning, in designing the studies, and also taking data, because data is there everywhere. But how to use data and how to interpret the data. And here again, we need those surgeon scientists with their experience. They can add a lot to innovation in surgery. Without them, then they will have a lot of surgical research, which is not very useful, if we want to call it like this. And here is an article showing this, where it concluded that important burden of wasted research is related to inadequate methods. And this waste could be partly avoided by simple and inexpensive adjustments. This should be done at the time of study design. And even the good randomized control trials, which are the gold standard for research. Here is a study showing that 35% of those randomized control trials, when they are reanalyzed, the researchers went to get new data, new conclusions. Conclusions which are different from those from the original articles about the types and number of patients who should be treated. Academic surgeons or surgeon scientists cannot survive without having organization of surgical care, a multidisciplinary approach, and this is one of the tasks that leadership should guarantee. Leadership is, if we want to define it, is a set of behaviors to help people to align their collective directions and execute strategic plans. Then it will continually renew the organization, because it's not only a static event, it is a dynamic thing. The leader should have good decision-making ability, and this is the most important. Then the second thing is communication skills, good communication skills, emotional intelligence, and some technical expertise. And you see, the technical expertise is not the most important thing in the leaders. And we have seen this in many big IT giants, where there are scientists working under the leadership of leaders who are not at the same level technically, but they are good in decision making abilities and communication skills. We are as surgeons, we love to operate. That's why we became surgeons. And surgery is a pleasure. We want to focus on operation. But to focus on operation, there is a big team supporting the surgeons. Start with the team in the operation theater. You have the operation nurse, you have the assistant surgeon, you have the anesthesiologist, you have the anesthetist nurse, the administrative of the operation theater, and you might need endoscopist in the theater. Also, out of the theater, you might need physicians referring to or following after the operation, for example, cardiologist. You might need researchers to make the quality control, to make the research and innovation, and even before the operation, after the operation, you need a lot of trainees, a lot of nurses, and you might need other specialists. For example, in IBT surgery, we need dietists. We need, in all surgical teams, we need service staff, administration. All those people will work together to allow the surgeons to focus on their operation. But this is not an easy task, and putting all those groups to work in parallel is very challenging and very complex task. And this is the task of surgery. That's why also surgical leaders, this is the task of surgical leaders. We need those leaders and we need those dedicated leaders to give us the chance to have focus on operation, and to give the surgeon scientists the chance also to focus on operation as well as on their scientific activities. And those leaders usually have another very complex and very difficult task, which is making the cost effectiveness in their department. And if you look at the healthcare system, there's increasing costs in the healthcare system. Actually, half of the cost goes to the technology, new technology. Then the administrative cost and the pharmaceutical costs. Contrary to what we believe, aging and chronic disease is not the primary source of burdening the healthcare system. So leaders need to take care of all this and need to take care of the surgeon scientists and need to take care of also the what we call it, the production in their department. We need dedicated scientists, but we need also dedicated leaders. For this purpose, our organization, Open Source Research Organization, is focusing on those two items: leadership and research. And we have done we have organized many courses and workshops in different parts of the world to talk about how we can focus on information technology, implement information technology to develop research and innovation in surgery. And at the same time, we also trying to spread a culture of leadership in surgical career. If you want to learn more about our activities, you are welcome to visit our website and read about Open Source Research Collaboration. We would be happy to have you also on board.